The New York Times is saying that a tabloid publisher's deal to hush money is now endangering Trump even more. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. You know, as you look at this, what do you want the nation to know about your former attorney being sentenced yesterday?
I don't think, and I have to go check, I don't think they even paid any money to that tabloid, okay? I don't think we made a payment to that tabloid. I was asking the question, I don't think we made a payment. And then you have the other situation, and every lawyer, look, Trump didn't violate campaign finance laws, and neither did the president. Trump ex-aid. So they're saying that...
Wait, I interviewed him on my program the other day. That's Han von Spakovsky. Yes,
here's another one. Michael Cohen pled guilty to something that's not even a crime. Wait a minute. These are campaign. Nobody, except for me, would be looked at like this. Nobody. What about Congress, where they have a slush fund, and millions of dollars is paid out each year? They have a slush fund. Millions. They don't talk about campaign finance anything. Have you ever heard of campaign finance list? Have they listed that on their campaign finance sheets? No.
Everyone I've covered that story. I'm waiting for them to dig into the slush fund.
Number one, they say it's not a campaign finance violation. Number two, or it's not even under campaign finance. Number two, if it was, it's not even a violation. Number three, it's a civil matter. You know, President Obama had a really big one from 10 times more money, much more money. And you know what? He paid a fine. I'm the only one that this happens to.
So Robert Ray, former special counsel for Whitewater, was telling me on the program yesterday what you're saying, that if this happened, he said, you know, he couldn't see grounds for impeachment over that. He couldn't see grounds for indictment over that. That's his opinion, but it's an informed opinion that I've seen, that there's not settled law on that anyway.
These are the people that ran the FEC, Federal Elections Commission. These are people writing stories that Trump did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
So, Mr. President, let's get into, if we can, Michael Cohen. He was your attorney. 3 years he was sentenced yesterday, and it may seem like he got a break because it could have been twice as much, but it's still 3 years in federal prison, $500,000 in restitution. This was someone who surreptitiously recorded you.
Terrible.
Is now known as a criminal liar. Yet this was someone who was in your inner circle.
Yeah. Well, it happens. I mean, look, it happens. I hire usually good people, but it just happens.
Why did you hire Michael Cohen? He was known as a fixer.
I'll tell you what, first of all.
That was his title, a
very low-level work.
Why did you need him?
He did more public relations than he did law, but he did stuff. You'd see him on television. He was okay on television. But years ago, many years, like 12, 13 years ago, he did me a favor. He was on a committee, and he was so responsive and so good, and I said, he's a nice guy. I shouldn't
Wait a minute. That was the favor?
Years ago.
Because people have been asking, well, what is the favor that he did the president? He was on a committee with you.
He was on a committee. It was a condominium committee many years ago. And he was a very big supporter of mine on that committee. I did a great job. Trump World Tower. It's a very tall building right opposite the United Nations. And when you build a building, people always get together at the end and they make a settlement with the owner. They say the ceiling wasn't painted the right color or something, you know, stuff. Sometimes serious stuff, but in my case, it was a great building. And he was on the committee. I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was really a nice guy. He was very supportive. And I liked him. And he was a lawyer. And because of that, I did it. And you know what? In retrospect, I made a mistake. Because what he did was all unrelated to me, except for the 2 campaign finance charges that are not criminal and shouldn't have been on there. They put that on to embarrass me. They put those 2 charges on to embarrass me. They're not criminal charges, number one. Now, that's according, Harris, that's according to the top
And I've interviewed people who've told me this. I mean, you watch the program,
So
you know.
what happened is either Cohen or the prosecutors, in order to embarrass me, said, listen, I'm making this deal for reduced time and everything else. Do me a favor, put these 2 charges on. They're not criminal charges.
I want to move on.
And they weren't for President Obama either.
I have one last question. Michael Cohen says that he lied in order to protect you.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Let me tell you, I never directed him to do anything wrong. Whatever he did on his own. He's a lawyer. A lawyer who represents a client is supposed to do the right thing. That's why you pay them a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. He is a lawyer. He represents a client. I never directed him to do anything incorrect or wrong. And he understands that. Look, he did some bad things unrelated to me, maybe related to his other clients. I wasn't his only client. He had other clients. He did some bad things. and income tax evasion. I heard about taxi cab. I heard about a lot of things. Now, I'm not reading about any of that stuff, because what he did is he made a deal to embarrass me. In order to embarrass me, they cut his term down. Pretty terrible stuff. Let me tell you the other thing. His father-in-law is a very rich guy, I hear. His father-in-law, I thought, was the guy that was the primary focus. Well, what did he do? Did he make a deal to keep his father-in-law out? Did he make a deal to keep his wife, who supposedly, maybe I'm wrong, but you can check it. Did he make a deal to keep his wife out of trouble? Now, how many people, when they say, listen, if you embarrass the President of the United States, we'll give you a deal. Your father-in-law, your wife, we'll cut you jail. That's all it is. It's a terrible system we have. It's going on right now with General Flynn. The FBI said he didn't lie.
I saw your tweet on that about
But Mueller said he did lie. So they took a man who's a general and a respected person and a nice man, and I don't even know what he said about me, because, you know, maybe they scared him enough they don't make up a story. But I have a feeling that maybe he didn't. He's a tougher kind of a guy than Cohen. But they took a general that they said didn't lie, and they convinced him he did lie, and he made some kind of a deal. And now they're recommending no time. You know why? Because they're embarrassed that they got caught.
All right, let's move on. So you mentioned Ohio, so I'm going to bring up John Kasich, and I'm going to bring up Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, because they say they may run against you in 2020.
I hope so.
But look at the new Fox polling today, which has your approval rating at 46%, which is just a couple ticks off of your highest point in Feb of 17.
But it's higher than Obama. It's higher than Obama.
What is your reaction today to getting that number? It's still below 50, but 46% approval.
Well, I think it's amazing, because I only get bad news. I only get bad stories. You look at the paper, it's all nonsense. It's campaign contributions that, if it were even a campaign contribution, is totally legal. You look at stories one after another. They're all legal. The great lawyers that do that stuff are saying there's nothing illegal.
All right, we'll get to that in a second.
But wait a minute. I mean, I get such bad news. So when you tell me I'm at 48, like Rasmussen, I was at 50 in Rasmussen. When you tell me I'm at 50%, I say, how can I possibly be at 50%? When I open up China, like I'm doing right now, nobody reports it. Now, the Wall Street Journal...
Well, we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, that's because, you know, I'm here and we're talking about it. It helps. But no, it's on the front page now of the Wall Street Journal, because nobody's ever seen anything like this. But it won't be a big story on NBC or ABC or CBS, and CNN won't even cover it. You know, that's total fake news.
What do you say to these men who think they have a shot in 2020, and you're sitting at 46, and it really hasn't moved all that much? And let's be honest, there have been some bumpy trails along the way, and weathering that with this type of approval rating. What do you say to a Kasich?
I think I have the greatest base in the history of politics. I have people that I love and that love me, frankly. That includes a lot of women. I got a tremendous percentage of women last time. Remember, I wasn't going to get women. I wasn't going to. I
interviewed some of the women for Trump. Yes.
I got women that they're the greatest. And I have tremendous women support. But if you remember the last election, I was worried I wouldn't get one woman in the whole United States to run. And I got tremendous. I mean, Hillary wished she had my numbers, okay? Hillary got trounced with women. And I'll tell you something. The news and the polls are really fake. But I have the greatest base in history, because the 46 and 48%, those people, they never waver. In fact, it was your poll. And frankly, Fox has always given me a bad poll. I don't know why that is, but because they've treated me fairer than most. But the polls have always been lousy.
But there's positive news in this, though.
Well, the economy was very positive. I just saw the poll. The economy was very... Look, I've done a good job on the economy, but I've done a very good job in foreign relations. We're respected again as a nation.